Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Tales from the Pen, Part 3. Told you it was coming. If you're new to the channel, my name is Fred, and I'm from Queens, and I've done a lot of years in the penitentiary. So what we do here at this channel is we're going to speak about prisons and we speak about jails. And I don't do it to glorify anything. I do it for the kids. I do it for the youth. I do it for the people who think it's a rite of passage to go to prison. I do it for the people who believe that it's cool to go to prison. That's what I do it for. I tell these stories so they can understand what really happens in the penitentiary. Because sometimes people come home from jail and they totally, they miscommunicate what's really happening inside the state penitentiaries, and they make it seem like, oh, it's nothing. I'm here to tell you it's something. Before we go any further, if you're new to the channel, what I need you to do is subscribe. Go down, hit subscribe, and let me get a few likes and maybe some comments here and there. So before we go on, I'll wait. Let you hit subscribe. Ready? Okay, here we go. Today's thing we're going to speak about the SHU, which is Special Housing Units here in New York. And we're going to talk about what's called S blocks. S blocks are maxi-max prisons, and you move around. Everywhere you move around in there, you're shackled and cuffed. And you have the cuff chained to your waist. Everywhere you go in there. And everywhere in there is videoed except the actual cell. There's no videos inside the cell. So back when Pataki was governor, he built a bunch of what's called S blocks, and he built them all around the state. And back then it was pretty weird because they always had money for the prisons, but they never had money for education. You got some of these kids that are in the class with 40, 50, at one time, at that time. It didn't matter. We got to build more prisons. So he built what was called the S block. And I was one of the first 13 inmates to open the first one, which was in Fishkill. And when you go in there, they strip you of everything, all the property that you had when you came from, other facilities. And they gave you a couple greens, which is your uniforms. They gave you about 2 of them. A couple pairs of drawers, t-shirts, a couple pairs of socks, and they gave you 10 pictures. And that's all you can have with you in the cell. And when you go in there, there's a big tower. And the tower is like a bubble. And the tower, they can see 360 degrees. They can see every tier. Now, they called it S block and SHU, S blocks 200s, because there was 200 cells, and each one was double bunked. Each one had bunks in them. So now when you get to your cell, you're chained, and there's a bunch of officers around you, and they uncuff your waist, but they still keep you here. And you have to put your hand on the wall. They unchain you, take the leggings off, because you're shackled on your feet as well. And then they have you back into your cell. Once the door closes, they open up. The door is solid with a little window, and it has that feet-up slot that I was telling you about in the last video. It's about maybe 6 inches by 8 inches, and they would close it and lock it. And that's where they would put your food through there, and they would put your letters through there, mail or anything that you may have had. And that's when you go in your cell, they open that side on the outside, and you stick your hands out, and they uncuff you. So now you're in your cell, uncuffed, okay? So now when you first go in the cell, on the right side, there's 2 bunks. On the left side, they have the toilet and the sink both together. Okay, it's one piece. Then they have a little desk. Then in the back of the cell, they would have a shower. Okay, the shower they controlled, and they turned all the water on, and they turned all the water off. They could do that also from the command center I was telling you about, where they could look around. And in the very back of the cell, they had a door. And that door, they would pop it for your recreation. And you would open the door, and you'd step out into another pen. The pen was maybe 4 feet by 8 feet, and it had cement walls on both sides. And in front of you, though, it was mesh. So you can look out, but you can't look to the left or the right. And, you can talk to your neighbor. You may talk to him for months and never see what he looks like. You can't see him. So that's how the double bunks were set up, okay? Now, on the wall right next to the toilet, they had a little plaque thing, metal, and it had 3 holes in the wall. We used to call it the holes in the wall. And after, a couple weeks, if you're good, they give you headphones. And the headphones, you plug into the wall and you listen to one of these 3 stations. Usually one of them was like a rock station. One of them was like a college, the local college. And the other one was like a pop channel, like more or less like what the Z100 would be down here in New York. And if you were good, like I said, that's how they kept people calm. They gave people headphones and people would just listen to the wall, we called it. Because a lot of times when you're in solitary, there's absolutely nothing to do. You do a lot of reading. You may do a lot of soul searching. You may ask yourself, why am I here? I know there's more to life than this. You do a lot of reflecting and you do a lot of reading. And if you are lucky enough to stay out of trouble, then you got the headphones and, you pass your day like that. You might do some push-ups. You might do some working out. And, your days was pretty much every day was the same, in solitary. So I got in trouble a few times in solitary. Let me tell you what happened. So the first time I got in trouble in solitary was I had been there a couple of days and I was by myself. I told you I was one of the first 13, so they had all the rest of these cells to fill up. So one day they came, knocked on my window, and they told me to go out to the rec pen. Now, they can't open the door until you are outside in that rec pen that I told you about. They open it, and you open the door, you step out, and you close it, and you lock yourself actually out. You can look in the window, and then when they bring in somebody in your cell, you can see who they're bringing in your cell, right? But again, they don't open that door until you are outside in that little pen, okay? So they came to my cell and they told me to go back to the pen, that somebody was coming to my cell. So when I looked at him, I looked at the, outside, I asked him, I said, you smoke? Now back then they was allowing you to get cigarettes and they were allowing you to buy what's called top. Top was tobacco, and you took it and you rolled it up on your own. And like I said, after about maybe 30 days, they gave you a commissary buy where you could buy stamps, envelopes, and you can buy the top. So, when I asked him, I yelled out the window to him because I looked. I said, you smoke? He said, yes. When he said yes, the police like, be quiet, put his head against the wall. And I said, well, I looked at the police. I said, well, I'm not going anywhere. He can't come in my cell. He smokes. I have asthma. That's known. There's no smokers. It says clearly on my card outside the door that had your name, your charge, whatever you was in the box for. And, and they would have a smoker, non-smoker. And I say, you guys can see I'm clearly a non-smoker. So they say, oh, don't worry, we're just going to keep him there a few days, find something else. But that was just game. And I just know that they just wanted me to go out so they can bring him in, and then they were going to leave him there. It might have caused problems. So I said, no, that's not going to work. That doesn't work with me. He's not coming in here. So the police said, now listen, I'm giving you a direct order. Now when they give me a direct order, that means they're about to write you another ticket, which is something like an in jail thing, an in-house thing where they write you up and then you go in front of a sergeant and the sergeant's going to find you guilty and give you, X amount more days, 30 days. At this time, I had like a year at this time. So when he said, I'm going to give you a direct order to go to the back of the pen, open your pen and go in. I said, well, you know what? Fuck your direct order. I'm giving you a direct order to get this guy out of here and bring me somebody who don't smoke. I'm not going up there. So I knew what was next. He said, okay, well, I gave you a chance. I said, yep, you did. So they left, and, I knew right away. They got on their walkie-talkie. He's refusing to go into the pen, blah, blah, blah. So I knew what was coming. So I put my couple pairs of pants on, put my shirts on, and what I did was I took water and I took soap and I sprayed it all in the front of the cell, so because I knew when they come in they're gonna slip and fall, and just give me a little more time or whatever, just make it more difficult for them. So they, next thing I know, the sergeant came to my cell, and he came with the Ninja Turtles, which are, like I explained in all the other videos, they're all 6'5", and they're all 260 pounds, and there's, Kane and the Undertaker, Goldberg, they're all there, all of them. And so he came and said, Johnson, I'm giving you one last warning. Giving you another order to go to your pen. I said, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here and, do what you got to do. Send them in. As soon as I said send them in, he called the control tower right there. He said, open the cell. And as soon as they opened the door, they rushed in. A couple of them did slip, so, my plan worked there. And I picked up the mattress and I held it, and I tried to rush down, but there was just too many of them, and, they smashed me. They kicked me, beat me, did all types of things, put their foot, one dude had his foot all in my face, they did me dirty. And then they carried me out like, you ever see how the rotisserie, like a pig is on a barbecue? Like that. That's how they had me. They cuffed me like that, and they carried me like that, banged my head along the way, and they threw me in a little cell they had by the tower. So, later on, I was all messed up, but, they brought me back to my cell again. And, I slept the night away, but, I was hurt. That was one incident. And then a few days later, I got into another incident with them, because what had happened was, when you're in there, you also, maybe you get cool with your neighbors, even though you don't know what they look like. And I used to play chess with my neighbor. And my neighbor was a cool dude, and you might say, well, how do you play chess? You guys aren't in the same cell. But what we used to do is you take like a piece of paper, say, and you make up a chessboard, right? And we use these placemats. Like, this is the chessboard. And what you would do is you put A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, 8 pieces, right? In the back, 8 pieces in the front. And then this way you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? So when you make the pieces, some people made them with paper. Some people, he made them and gave them to me. He used to make them though out of, he used to take soap, carve them out, make them real nice, make them look like pieces. And he did other sets with toilet paper. He would take the toilet paper, wet them, mold them, some dudes, the ingenuity that goes on in the prison is unbelievable. We'll get to that in future videos. But, so, he made up all these chess pieces and, had everything looking nice. And so we would scream back and forth. We'd be like, A1 to A4. Then I would look at mine and I would move his pieces, and then I would turn the board around, and then I would yell my move to him. And this is how we would go back and forth, And so one day they had to search my cell. So they took me out, and they were always searching my cell, especially after that first incident. So they took me out into this little pen until they searched my cell. So when they brought me back to my cell, as I was, backing in, I looked and I seen that, they had ripped my pictures up, and they had broke all my chess pieces. It's one thing to search my cell when I don't have nothing in there really anyway, but it's another thing to be disrespectful. And what they did was they ripped up my pictures, and I seen some of them in the toilet bowl. And so I flipped, as the door. I was like, yo, what the hell is this? And my door's closed, and I didn't know what to do. I just spit on the dude, right in his face. I don't even know if he was one of the dudes to search, but, he got it. That's just the way it was. I was angry. I was mad. But I also knew what was coming next, So, again, I'm still cuffed. They told me, put your hands through the slot. Let's, uncuff you, because they wanted those cuffs back. I said, man, I'm not giving you shit. Which sounds weird because now I'm cuffed in my cell, but I just wanted to make it hard for them. This is the life. This is what's going on. This is the way it is in there. So I told them, I'm not giving you shit. Go get the sergeant. You know what to do. And that's what they did again, They, came to my cell and told me, you got better uncuff, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not uncuffed shit. These guys violated me. Look at this toilet bowl. Look at this shit. I showed the sergeant with all this shit. He said, yeah, no, I understand, but that's no justification for what you did. You can't spit on people, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, well, I'm not giving you cuffs. I don't give a fuck what you got to do, right? So he said, okay, well, you know what's next? I said, yep, I do. And once again, they came in. Only this time they came in a little bit with a little bit more vengeance. You know, this time they came in and, you know, they stomped me. They beat me with the batons and, you know, they kicked me all types of ways. And I pretty much, they left me there that night. I pretty much passed out numerous different times waking up from the pain because they pretty much broke my ribs and everything. And there was nothing I could really do about it, you know? Nothing anybody could do about it. And I remember waking up the next morning and I was fucked up. And I remember the nurse came to my cell, and the nurse came and she said, you know, stick your arm out. You know, at that time they had took the cuffs off. They beat the hell out of me. You know, stick your arm out for your vitals. And I was like, wow, thank God somebody's going to help me, you know. I can't even breathe. I couldn't barely even move my arm to put it out because anybody who's had, you know, rib issues, you understand that shit is, everything you do hurts. So I was like, wow, thank God somebody's going to help me. So she took my vitals. And she said, okay, he's fine. And they closed up the slot and they walked away. And I was like, wait, hold on. Fine, wait, hold on, I can't breathe. You know what I mean? I felt, you know, my arm hurts, my back hurts. Like, wait, you know, I'm broke up here. What do you mean I'm fine, you know? But as long as my vitals are fine, I was good. So I went to turn on the water and they turned my water off. Right outside the cell, there was a little door where they can open it and they can actually turn your water off, period. Which means you can't flush your toilet and you can't get anything to drink. You know, so that's why they left me like that for a couple of days, actually. And then about 2 days later, actually, they left me like that with no water, no nothing, and just left me all messed up, no food, anything. Every time the food came, they just passed my cell. You know, there's nothing I could do about it. This is how they played, man. You know, it was kind of rough, you know, but this 2 days later, the nurse came back to my cell. And she told me, you know, pull out my hand again. You know, and I did it. She took the vitals and they said, here you go. And they gave me what was called, I was on the loaf. The loaf was made with like oats and cabbage and Brussels sprout and just, you know, stuff I didn't eat. Disgusting things. And it was built into like a little pound cake. And it was disgusting. It tastes like vomit. It smelled like vomit. Anybody who knows about the loaf will understand and know what that is. It's disgusting. And they give it to you once a day in the morning, and that's it. That's what you get to eat. You take that in your cell and you eat it as you can throughout the day. It was disgusting. But, you know, after a few days of not eating, you have to eat a little bit, you know. It was just horrible. And they left me on the loaf for 7 days. In fact, you know, they beat me so bad that my family had come my mom had come to visit me, and they refused her visit. They told her that they had some type of security thing going on in the jail, and, you know, she couldn't come in. So she went home, but she knew something was wrong, you know, and they weren't giving me my mail, and they weren't letting me write her either. They weren't letting me write anybody. So what I had to do was write the letter, and I sent it to my neighbor. Okay, we sent it back and forth, and I sent it to him, and then he wrote his name on the envelope and sent it out, you know, from his cell. And it got to my mom, and then she knew that something had happened. The thing is that with my family, I never told them too much. I never told them anything because I never really wanted them to worry. You know, I never really wanted them to, you know, go through what I was going through because they were already going through it. You know what I mean? So I never wanted to share with them what was really happening, but I just let them know that something happened to officers, and, you know, they hit me a little bit, but, you know, I'm good, I'm fine. You know, I just had to let them know right there. But my mom don't play, so she started calling up the jail every day. What's going on with my son? What happened to him? You know, and that's one thing. When they know that you have family, and they know you have people out there, it's least likely that they'll kill you, you know, because they know that they're going to have to answer for that. So that next Saturday, and Saturdays in that facility was visits, and it was from 6 to 9 at night only. That was the only day you can get visits. So I made sure every Saturday I had a visit just to get out my cell, you know, and that's just the way it was. And just to get something to eat, because when you go on a visit, you can eat, you know, and you know, and the first few times I had to see her cuffed up. Where I had to be cuffed and chained and shackled on the visit itself. You know, and that was kind of tough. It was kind of tough to sit in front of my mom like that, and for her to see me like that. And, you know, that was a tough one. You know, rest in peace to my mom too, by the way. But that was, you know, after the loaf, they put me on that for 7 days. Then they took me off of that, and eventually, you know, I chilled out, and eventually everything went smooth, and I got some time added because of those incidents, but then I got a time cut because I was a few months without anything, and they give you time cuts, and they take box time off. So I did about a year and some change on that one, and you know, it was tough. It was tough, but you know, I made it through, and then from there, I ended up going to Comstock, and you know, in the next video, we'll talk about Comstock. In the next video, we'll talk about some other things. But I see I'm already at the 20-minute mark, and, you know, I try to keep it to about there so you guys don't get bored with what I'm saying. And, you know, again, I don't do this to glorify anything that I did, or I don't do this for, you know, popularity or anything. I do this for the people who want to know about prison, and I do this for the people, hopefully, to show their kids. I do this for the kids. I do them to let them know that this is the real shit that happens in prison. This is the real stuff that goes on in prison that maybe deters somebody. You know what I mean? I can't get everybody. But maybe I can get one person who will listen to me and be like, you know what? I do not want to go through what that man went through. And if that's the case, then I've succeeded in what I started and why I started this channel. So again, people, until next time, until part 4, Fred White, signing off.